Brendan Magee is a retired civil servant who has worked in London, Belfast, Bootle, Manchester and Coleraine on issues from complaints on greyhound stud fees, it's a very serious matter, to immigration matters, which actually is a very serious matter. Oh, of people, that is, not greyhounds. He lives in Coleraine, but is originally from Knockcraven, is that right? Knockcraven, Garrison, County Fermanagh. There's somebody else from Fermanagh here, is there? On Loch Melvin's rocky shores. A new face at Flash Fiction Armagh. Please give a warm welcome to Brendan reading Living Up to the Name. That's hard.
Right.
Might have to crouch down here.
Right. Neil.
I have to put it on the apple box.
I don't see this here.
Just before I start, I can pass on greetings from Anne McMaster, who's responsible for Flowerfield. Yeah. So she said to make sure that I pass those on. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Living up to the name. They called him the Yank, and he played up to the name. He'd walked the village in his Stetson, which had a cut-out photograph of a bald eagle on one side and a feather on the other. My mother said it was a feather from a Rhode Island red, and she knew about chickens. And that was as close as he had ever been to the United States. He drove a Ford Anglia, which had a pink stripe down one side that certainly hadn't been factory painted. The Yank lived with his mother in a small cottage on the outskirts of the village. The cottage could at best be described as functional and had a small patch of green in front of it. In the middle of the patch, he had a yellow painted wheelbarrow with a cactus in it. The plant never flowered, but none of us in the village knew whether or not it should flower. 5 nights a week, the Yank would come into the pub around 10 o'clock. No one knew where he went on the other 2 nights. Some said he had a secret girlfriend, others that he used to go up to Timony's Rock, strip naked and howl at the moon. I never believed that, as we rarely had 2 clear moonlit nights in a month, never mind in a week. He would always ask for a Lone Star beer, and Mickey the barman would always give him the same reply: "Feck off, you'll have a pint of heart like the rest of us." And he did. It was hard to know how he made a living, but he did a circle of local cattle fairs each month. He didn't own any cattle, nor was he a dealer, but he acted as a deal broker when a sale between a buyer and seller looked like breaking down. He would hold out the opposing hands as if conducting a wedding and encourage the palm-slapping exchange. He would even provide the spit if either party had dried. He always seemed to be successful, and today he'd probably be a millionaire dealer in the city. It was only at his mother's wake that I found out how he got the Yank nickname. He had fancied himself as a compere and comedian. One night he was comparing at a concert in the parochial hall. He had launched into a joke about the parish priest and his housekeeper, but his mother rushed up onto the stage and yanked him off it. She finished one career but inspired another. Thank you.